Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Divine Wildflower. And baby, just like everything else over here, you know we don't just watch movies. We decode the messages hidden inside of them. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because around here we talk about healing, intuition, spirituality, and the soul level lessons disguised as everyday life in our culture.
Don't listen to the hollow words. Don't fall into the hands. Don't follow any other path but your own. Don't need to live up to their demands. Only your heart can tell you what is right. You really should listen.
Disclaimer. Look, the Divine Wildflower is all about truth, tea, and transformation. In that order, we talk culture, relationships, healing, and yes, a little real world mess, but baby, it's all opinion, not fact, not gospel. So don't quote me in the comments, okay? We're just here to share perspectives, laugh through the lessons, and remind every black woman watching that she's allowed to evolve and be entertained. Healing ain't linear, baby, and neither are we. And before we begin, I have to give a beautiful shout out to Ryan Coogler and his incredible wife and creative partner, Zenzi Evans Coogler. The artistic fingerprint on this film, the emotional depth, the cultural nuance, you can feel their influence all throughout Sinners. This is storytelling on a spiritual level, but how many of y'all caught it? And while we're giving flowers, we need to talk about Michael B. Jordan, honey, because yes, we know him for Creed, Fruitvale Station, Black Panther, and all of the iconic roles he's blessed us with. But one of my personal favorites, one that doesn't get talked about enough, is his performance in Fahrenheit 451, a film about erasing knowledge, suppressing truth, and destroying the very history that keeps a people grounded. Michael played that role with a quiet fire, the kind that makes you realize he chooses projects with meaning, projects with message, projects that speak to the times we're living in. So shout out to that man, talented, intentional, and fine as ever. Now let me just say this. Some movies are meant to entertain you, and some movies are meant to wake up something you forgot you had. Sinners, this wasn't just a movie. This was a message, a mirror, a warning, a spiritual documentary wearing a horror mask. And once I started catching the symbolism, I realized this film was talking directly to us, to black people, to our history, our trauma, our power, and our awakening. Let's start with Smoke and Stack, Elias and Elijah, two sides of the same soul. I believe they represent, and y'all, bear with me, don't even come in the comment section with that. I believe they represent the duality of the black man, one side rooted in spirituality and the other raised in the limits of control. Stack is disconnected from intuition. He represents the black man who was broken and taught to fear his own roots. Stack isn't disconnected from intuition because he's naturally that way. He's disconnected because his spirit was broken a long time ago. Now remember when Smoke mentioned how their father used to beat Stack constantly. That wasn't just childhood trauma, that was spiritual conditioning. When a child is repeatedly punished for showing emotion, asking questions, or expressing inner knowing, they learn to shut off intuition, ignore their inner voice, choose safety over truth, follow rules instead of asking why. That kind of upbringing doesn't just change behavior, it breaks the spiritual backbone. So by the time we meet Stack, he's already learned to survive by staying inside the lines. He's the black man who was taught, don't question, don't feel, don't look deeper, just obey. But here's the deeper meaning. Stack being turned by Mary didn't start that night. It started years ago when their father beat him into silence, into obedience, into spiritual submission. His father broke his spirit before Remik ever got a hold of him. Stack represents the black man who was punished out of his own identity, the man who fears his roots because the world taught him that anything powerful inside of him must be suppressed. So in that doorway, after Stack had been turned by Mary, he tried to persuade Smoke to submit, to accept things as they are, to stop fighting, to stop questioning, to allow himself to be turned by Remik. That moment showed us everything. He was convincing Smoke because he had already accepted his defeat years ago. Smoke, on the other hand, is spiritually awake. He carries his hoodoo bag, a symbol of ancestral protection that's been with him for years. He trusts his intuition. At first, he acts like he doesn't believe when talking to Annie, but deep down, he does. Smoke is the brother who refused to be broken. Where Stack's spirit collapsed under the weight of their father's abuse, Smoke's spirit hardened. Not in a cold way, but in a way that taught him survival, self-preservation, and clarity. Smoke is the one who looked the monster in the eyes and said no more. Smoke didn't just survive the trauma, he interrupted the cycle. That's why, like Annie, Smoke carries such a spiritual resonance throughout the film. He doesn't sneak, doesn't flinch, he doesn't get manipulated, he doesn't spiritually fold. Smoke is the embodiment of resilience, the version of the black man who still carries his original identity. Together, they are the internal battle black men face. Religion versus spirituality, conditioning versus calling, fear versus power. And when Stack rejects Annie, it's not really her he fears, it's the truth she represents. Now Annie, whew, this character touched me deeply. She's the black woman who never forgot, never disconnected, never stopped listening to her intuition. She stayed in alignment with her ancestors, and because of that, she knew things nobody else could see. Annie represents the uncolonized black woman, the intuitive black woman, the spiritually protected black woman, the woman whose gifts religion couldn't dim, the woman who sees danger before anyone else. And Stack's discomfort around her wasn't random, it was symbolic. When a black woman knows who she is, she becomes uncontrollable, unmanipulable, uncolonizable. She becomes the lighthouse in a room full of lost people. That's Annie. She wasn't just written with intention, she was cast with intention. Ryan Coogler chose Wunmi for a reason. She's a dark-skinned, full-figured, stunning black woman who doesn't fit into European standards of beauty. And that alone made people uncomfortable. But the truth is, many Annies exist today. Deeply intuitive, spiritually connected black women whose power has nothing to do with Eurocentric approval. Annie represents the women who carry ancestral knowing in their bones, the women who can see danger before it comes, and the women whose presence alone disrupts systems built to silence them. So this is a shout out to all the real Annies, the unconformed, uncolonized, beautifully rooted black women walking this earth every day. And now we have Sammy. Sammy is the spiritual spark of this entire story. Sammy represents the new generation waking up, the return of ancestral gifts, intuition that cannot be suppressed, a soul with memory older than his age, a fire that religion can't extinguish. His father tried to push religion onto him, not because he's evil, but because he's afraid of what he can't explain, afraid of repeating history, afraid of the world he grew up in. But in trying to protect him, he unknowingly actually becomes part of the system suppressing him. And Sammy felt this, which is why he could never stay with his father after everything fell apart, because once he saw the truth, he couldn't return to the lie. Remik exposed the truth outright, that religion could never save him, and Sammy felt that truth in his spirit. What protected him in the end wasn't doctrine, fear, or ritual obedience. It was his spiritual inheritance, his intuition, and the ancestors moving through him. His father wanted him to stay small, stay safe, and stay controlled by a system that had never protected him. But Sammy had awakened. And once a child realizes where their real protection comes from, they can't go back to the place that keeps them disconnected from it. Sammy is the child whose soul shines too bright, too ancient, too powerful, and because of that, he becomes a target. And Remik knew that. Now, we can't talk about sinners without honoring Delta Slim, played by Delroy Lindo, the elder, the spiritual guide, the wounded messenger. Delta Slim carries the kind of ancestral knowledge that can only come from surviving too much and remembering everything. His drinking isn't weakness, it's trauma management. He's a man who has seen the spiritual war up close, a man who knows the truth religion tried to bury, a man who cannot forget, even when forgetting would give him peace. And yet, through all that pain, Delta Slim remains powerful. Why? Because he still remembers the ancestors. He still listens to spirit. He still recognizes the signs others ignore. And in the end, he does what elders have always done for the next generation. He sacrifices himself to protect Sammy and the others. His final act wasn't rooted in fear. It was rooted in duty, in love, and in ancestral responsibility. Delta Slim is the embodiment of the wounded healer, the one too broken to save himself, but strong enough to save everyone else. Now let's talk about Remik, because this is where the movie gets real. See, a lot of people watch Remik and saw just another fucking vampire villain, but spiritually, he represents something far deeper. Remik is not racism. He's not white supremacy. He's not a culture vulture. He's the entity behind all of that. Remik represents soul harvesting, spiritual parasitism, forces that drain black life force, something older and darker than our trauma, a spiritual enemy, not a physical one, a system that eats our souls, not bodies. Remik existed long before colonialism, long before Europeans ever came into contact with indigenous melanated people. He is an ancient spiritual parasite, a force that hunts power, not skin color. And when he told Sammy he needed his power to get back home, That line revealed everything. Symbolically, it means this entity survives by feeding on the souls of the most spiritually powerful people. And that has always been us. Black souls carry memory, fire, intuition, rhythm, ancestral connection, and the ability to shift spiritual realms. Remik's hunger isn't random, it's targeted. He needs the raw spiritual energy of our people to hold and sustain himself. He is the embodiment of every force that has ever fed off of our brilliance, our pain, our gifts, and our identity. Remik isn't after flesh, he's after essence. And Sammy, being spiritually awakened, was exactly the kind of soul that could restore him. Sammy was a high-value soul, a powerful one, a gifted one. Remik wasn't after his body, he was after his essence. This is why I say Sinners wasn't just a movie. It was a message about spiritual warfare. It's about the battle for black souls. It's about the split between who we were before colonization and who we were forced to become after it. It's about the youth waking up spiritually, while some of the older generation clings to systems that harmed them. It's about black women remembering their power, while black men struggle to reconcile theirs. It's about the unseen enemy, the one that doesn't care about race or politics, the one that lives off unhealed people. It's about how our culture, our spirituality, and our connection to ancestors was never the enemy but the protection. So the next time you watch Sinners, don't look at it like a horror film. Look at it like a spiritual warning, a reminder, a wake-up call. Because this story wasn't just about good versus evil. It was about remembering versus forgetting. Stack forgot, Smoke remembered, and he never lost it, and Sammy was becoming. If this message resonated with you, go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with somebody who's on the spiritual journey. I'm the Divine Wildflower, and I'll see you on the next one.